Welcome. We're back with Catherine Olson talking about Strata education. Hi, Catherine.
Hey,
So, why is Strata Council training an important topic?
have you been in any of the Facebook comment pages lately for Strata Council groups?
I've
That's
seen
why.
some.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
because
there's.
there's so much systemic and widespread misunderstanding that in my mind, if we as an industry could do a little bit of a better job at explaining clearly in an approachable way for the every person, we could clear a lot of this up. So, and when the
And
job, when the councils are more functional as a result, like they understand what they're doing, then by that association, the job of the strata manager gets better. And the culture of the brokerages gets better. And then my colleagues don't drown and burn out and leave at rates of 50 to 60% in the first year, and then 80 to 90% by the end of the second year. So that's why it's important.
and we're not the only ones talking about it. It's something that has been ongoing as a theme in this province for a while because there are other jurisdictions where education is either mandated or it's a priority, and obviously Ontario comes to mind.
Yeah.
Um, in this province, there are a number of organizations that support strata and strata councils, all of the alphabets that you like to point out from CHOA, BZOA, CCI, and others. But you have developed something yourself, which is an in person event that is running this month.
Yeah.
Please give us a high level intro to that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I have tried to reach out and collaborate with a lot of the alphabet associations, to be clear, because I want to work within existing frameworks where it's possible. I don't think that, everything should be taken down to build something new. I think that there's so many ways to strengthen the existing systems. Um, but having also my own series is, I realized, allows me to do it completely unfiltered and uncompromised. And I think that was actually even the bigger attraction for me, was that by doing this on my own, I can make it whatever I want and I can have so much fun with it. And I
Fun is
genuinely
good.
love
And I,
this.
I think
Yeah,
that's
like
why
I love Strata. Like this is fun for me. So, yeah.
you've labeled it not your grandma's strata council training. Is that because it is meant for a younger audience, or is this for everyone?
I've just noticed a pattern of prior training in the industry leaning to more dry legal language. And I know after long days and meeting nights, being at professional learning the next day at 8 a.m., there's been times where I kind of like almost fell asleep. And when I was thinking about naming it, I was like, nah, this is not going to be like that. This is not your grandma's strata training. That's, I think, how it played out in my head. And I was like, great, that's the name of the event series now. Perfect.
I get it. I get it. And as a former suit, I'm only moderately offended.
Sorry.
No. Okay. So the theory is that better informed strata council members will be able to run their self managed communities better, to interact with and relate to their property management firm if they're a larger strata corporation better, and hopefully bring some improved governance and improved transparency to the communities as a whole to foster a greater sense of understanding and agreement, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah. And to be clear, it's not just those people I've mentioned that will benefit. Like when strata councils are better educated, the associated trades don't get as much pushback, and they get paid on time. And people use resources properly, and they want to attend professional association webinars. So the associations benefit, and the trades benefit, and the managers benefit, and the buildings themselves see improvement in the quality of life for their residents. So literally, by educating strata councils, you can make life better for normal people.
And I strongly support that. Financial literacy is really important to me. That's why OctoAI and Eli Report are one of the many supporters that you have for this series of events. I think we should start by going to discuss each of the nights and what you're focusing on. Can we do that?
Yeah, yeah. So I thought, how am I going to break this down into three distinct topics? The first one, who the F does what? Because when you look back at conflict throughout history, it goes back thousands and thousands of years, people fighting over placement of fire in the first cave. Like we always have argued about living arrangements. So figuring out who does what is the first step to getting any change to happen within a strata. So, we're gonna have fun with it. I have kind of made a theme for each night. The first night is the pilot program, flight themed. There's going to be different hats for each night. It's very exciting, and we're going to walk through the various stakeholders, the different positions within a strata, pragmatically, functionally, not just listing the different sections, but what do those sections mean in terms of when you're in the council meeting, what words are going to come out of your mouth? So more like that, because that's I think what I've heard brings so much value to the training that I do is that people are left with practical solutions for how they could actually walk through their next interaction, right? And that's what we're going to do. We're also going to talk about Bob's Rules of Order, which is going to be kind of just a really bare bones version of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order, to help each of those different parties through meetings. So that's night one.
Excellent. So
Really
that's a
excited.
little bit less formal, understand who does what within these different stakeholder groups and how to communicate.
Yeah.
Seems good. Who are your sponsors and partners for the first night?
So night one, I would like to thank Eli Report, Property Flute, and Strata Press. They are the main sponsors for the evening, and also Ram Mechanical and HW Photo Booths are sponsoring the photo booth for all three nights. And ProStar has generously donated some admin and office supplies stuff for me. So thank you to all of those wonderful
Excellent.
people.
That is wonderful. And for everyone's information, this event is Thursday, November 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Garden Strathcona. We'll come back to it at the end, but you can look for it on Eventbrite. Tonight, two, Catherine, what's happening?
Yeah. Well, okay. It wouldn't be talking about money if we didn't talk about how we're all fleecing each other gangster style. So, night two is gangster mobster themed. We are going to follow the trail of money through a strata, basically. And again, make sense of reading your financial statements. But all of this, again, grounded in what's happening on the ground. We'll go through some live scenarios of like what happens when council dips into funds without a vote, or in the moment they interpret things as needed to be spent. And then some of the red flags that generally get brokerages fined and councils sued. So it's going to be all about talking about financials and money and how those things go wrong. We'll dip a little bit into vendor management too, as it relates to money and maintenance. So.
Interesting. Yeah, certainly conflict does arise when money's involved, especially since a lot of this it's not only an important financial decision, but it is everyone's home. And that makes it a much more emotional conversation than it
Well,
might be if it was something else.
financials too in stratas are so weird. I've had so many accountants and CGAs and CAs on my councils over the years, and they don't make my favorite treasurers to be honest, because they don't quite understand the like organicness of strata financials. That like AR means that this was done that way, and this number doesn't connect here, and there's 2 years worth of surplus carry forwards, and there's different projects that span over 3 years, and nothing seems to connect to itself anywhere. And they don't like it. They find it untidy, I think, maybe. But it's just, they're living financials. We'll
Right.
call it
It
that.
I think
So
if I was accountant, I would find that untidy and ruffle me up too, but
yeah.
at the same time, I'm not an accountant, and at the end of the day, we wanna just make sure that everything gets done the way it's supposed to. It's kind of
Well, and
interesting
sometimes
actually.
there's red flags and then there's
Mhm.
just flags, like that was okay, maybe not the best way in terms of proper accounting procedures to account for that thing, but that's literally the way they've done it for 30 years and there's been no mishandling per se. It's just never been changed. And it's not to
Mhm.
say that they shouldn't change it, but it doesn't mean that they're bad, right? So there's a lot of that in stratas.
That's
I'll say
interesting.
too.
I wonder how it would go if we had in BC an audit requirement like they have in Ontario.
Oh my god.
Can you
That'd be so
imagine?
funny.
Would it be funny
Right
because
now,
you
if
don't have to
I
do
have,
it,
okay, so
or
if I have a year end of December, let's say, and a council says that they have to have their financials audited to attach to their AGM, which has to be within 2 years of 2 months of the year end month. So I have to have my AGM by the end of February, year ends December. I won't get my financials reconciled until the third week of January, which means 6 months prior, I already had to call Don Russell Co to book an auditor to be available specifically within that 2 week period to be like ready to audit the financials immediately to then get the AGM notice out on time. I hated it. It was awful.
yeah, I mean
So
it as a measure of good governance, I can see why it is helpful, but for small organizations, small companies, as well as small stratas, I think it's ridiculous. When you're up to the really large stratas, there could be more merit in having something structured or something formal there. But
I agree.
it's not something that I'm ever looking for in this space. I think if everyone had a better understanding of how it worked, we'd be in a happier place without needing to undertake an audit.
I would say get a depreciation done right and read it before I would say get an audit done to most stratas.
Yeah,
And that's
agreed.
not to say like if there's been some weird stuff going on or there was a brokerage transfer because of like
Right.
actual bad things, maybe an audit's a good idea. But for the most part, it's not usually malfeasance. A lot of the time, it's just misunderstandings or like ignorance. So.
Agreed 100%.
Yeah.
Who is your presenting sponsor for night two?
Night two is Blay, both an Upple legal law practice. I am so excited. Catherine Upple and Sam Blay have been big supporters of mine, and I'm really excited to have them sponsoring night two.
Wonderful. Once again, same venue the following Thursday, November 13th, 2025. And Eventbrite for tickets. We'll go on to talk about night three.
Yes, night three. That is the bylaw police, in case it wasn't clear from the tiny photo her hat says. So night three is bylaws, BS, and better boundaries. So we're going to talk about bylaws and following the right processes, where to look within the spa. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to guide you through legal advice, but more so, where should you look when you're running into certain problems? What should you bring a lawyer into versus what might you be able to resolve yourselves? We'll take a look at rewriting a bad bylaw letter live and issue some mock citations from some real world scenarios. And also just generally deal with some conflict resolution because we talk about common sense, and I've seen this idea of like, oh, people need more common sense in stratas, but we also have to factor in that common sense isn't common to everyone. Like as strata managers, as industry related professionals, we actually have elevated sense. And not everyone grew up in a city like Vancouver or a province like BC. They might not know the legislation. They might never have owned in a condo, all these different things. And so common sense has come from investment of the community in education to help people get to a shared collective acceptable level of knowledge. And so I'm hoping to kind of impart that as well. So like bring a little common sense that we can look at as a group that would really work in a strata to avoid getting to the point where you're at a CRT. Um,
Yes.
Yeah.
You have so many different things coming together. You've got different demographics, different financial positions, different
Different
values,
smells and
different
sounds.
yes. So I mean, is that why we have bylaws? I mean, we don't have bylaws for normal neighbors if you're kind of in a single
But you do,
family
you
house.
just have municipal ones, right? And
Yeah, you have municipal ones, but those already apply in the areas where there are stratas. Why are there more rules?
well, because you aren't living that close to each other, right?
Yes,
And
that is the difference.
you own a shared asset together.
Yeah.
Um,
And you get to start from a good foundation because
yeah,
there is a standard set of bylaws in this province, and then each community can alter them themselves. And I'm sure that it will be
please
covered,
do.
but you
Also,
get to
if you're a
modify.
council listening, go get a lawyer to update your bylaws. If you're still using the standard bylaws, those are 1998.
There are a lot of things that
They're very
should be
problematic.
considered that may not be, but it's nice to have a framework to work from, and have that as a baseline.
I think it's important too doing learning like this for councils because there's so many questions I get in council seminars I've done for brokerages where they're like, okay, this is happening in my brokerage. Can we do this? Can I do that? And it happens a lot with like, can we look at the cameras? Can we da da da? And I'm like, okay, like so I'm gonna instead of answering you, I'm gonna ask you a question back and say, like, how much is this one worth to you? Like, what have you tried first? And it's funny because a lot of the context of bylaw enforcement in stratas is such a gray area because usually you're looking to enforce what is the symptom of a bigger problem um, rather than dealing with that root cause issue, right? So I think sometimes getting them to see the big picture, you walk away with a more functional ability to resolve conflicts. It's not just understanding bylaws, but when to lean on the bylaws versus is this actually just something pragmatically that we should talk out as reasonable people? How should we be dealing with this? And actually, I have a little graphic and compass that I'm putting in there, like the Strata common sense test that I'm developing for that session as well, just to like ask yourself, would grandma be proud of you for this? Because honestly, I feel like if in stratas, every single person before they behaved or said something just was like, would my grandma be proud of me for doing or saying this? Probably be way less issues.
Might think twice. Excellent. Well, that'll be a great session. Who are your partners for this one?
And the last night cleaning up the series is Grime Fighters service group, and they are fantastic. I was trying to coerce them into actually wearing the Grime Fighters costumes to do it for the photos, but I'm pretty sure they were just going to ghost the event if I followed through. So yeah, thank you
They
guys. Anyways,
they do look
Brian, Brett,
fabulous
they're
in
amazing. Yeah,
in
they're
costume. That is
great,
true.
great team over there. So
Fantastic. Okay, so that'll be good. Same place the next week,
yes.
and everyone should go to Eventbrite to book tickets for this. This is free tickets to Strata owners and Strata council members, thanks to the sponsorship. Um, so there's no cost to attend. I think you've listed out most of the groups here, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, and we're gonna have charcuterie and cheese and desserts. So I am bribing you to come and let me talk to you guys in exchange for snacks. But you know what? You're gonna have fun whether you like it or not. So
That's true. That's true. We got some BC beer and some BC wine, so you can take the edge off of the tense topics of Strata to
there's no tension.
enjoy.
I like to make people laugh. That is the best way to learn is to laugh. Usually at yourselves.
Yes, it's true. So those will be great. And if you're seeing this well after the fact, don't despair. There will be more, and there will be potentially some digital versions of education coming. So stay tuned and do get in touch with Catherine for any of your Strata related questions. What sort of work are you doing with Strata councils, Catherine?
Right now, I offer a couple different packages. I'm working with a couple of multiplex developers and a couple of small fourplex self-managed stratas. And these are self-managed clients that just need some guidance and consulting. So I'm not providing the services of a full brokerage, nor am I a lawyer. So if you are at the point where you are like slipping on anonymous notes under each other's doors, like I'm not the person for you. I'm sorry to say, guys, you have to want to work together, and you have to be self-managed. And I love it because honestly, it's exactly what I like to do. I like to educate and to empower people to create better communities within, within their homes, and within their stratas. So, yeah.
Which makes sense because when you buy into a strata, you're stuck with it until you sell. You are paying those fees. You are living with your neighbors, and you might as well make the best of it. So,
And I've seen
um,
some really great stratas and some really amazing ones. Like I've seen high Airbnb buildings where the investors and the residents actually found a really good cohesive place because the investors saw the value of investing in capital projects and they successfully passed a big repiping project the first time they tried for it because they announced it the year before. They did all the right planning. They had the town halls. The ownership was like, "Yep, great, let's go." Right. So I've seen when counselors are educated, when they do it right, when they're educated. Like, sorry, I keep saying educated, but you know what? Yeah, just brainwash you with that word. Um, I've seen them just make really great choices and become better building for it, and it's really fun to work with those clients. So.
yeah, yeah, and I think everyone should aspire to that type of environment where you are trying to work collaboratively. The budgets in these communities are significant. The average strata fees in this province are nearly $6,000 per unit per year, and that's just the strata fees, not the special levies. And those are also significant year over year. Yes, a portion of your strata fees go to your CRF, your reserve fund, but the funding in BC is totally insufficient for capital projects over the long run. And most owners should expect an extra couple $1,000s a year uh, on top of their strata fees for this. So these are big dollars, and you've got to make sure that you're putting the money into what matters in terms of maintenance, required, preventative, and those capital upgrades when you need them. And it's interesting that you brought up the short-term rental thing because I know that's quite contentious. Even rentals were very contentious in BC until a couple of years ago when the rule change came in. And all rule changes, when they're enforced at a either federal or provincial level, have both intended and unintended effects and consequences. And the one about rentals I found quite interesting because it made strata a more attractive opportunity for investors. They could now rent out a unit if there was previously a restriction on the number of units that would have meant that they couldn't do that. And of course, as the dynamic changes within a community from owner occupants to rental occupants, investors have a slightly different view typically than owner occupants.
I think it's because it has to be balanced still. Where a building falls too much to one side or the other, it derails. Where you get too many investors, I've seen it go the way where no one participates. They don't see their dollars going out as anything but profit lost. Whereas
Yep.
in this building, the residents and the investors saw it as building up value to being the highest standard of Airbnbs available in the area. And then the residents were like, we enjoy now the fact that, oh, so not just that, they increased to almost 24-hour security and on-site staff like every day of the week basically. So using increased budgets, they were able to bring in other things. They redid their gym, they repiped all these things, right? So, and they did good maintenance. They paid their, site staff well, and they were good. This council will even know who I'm talking about, but they even gave really good, generous Christmas bonuses to their caretaker staff and stuff like that. And I really liked that because I fight with councils a lot over bonuses or fair wage increases for caretakers, and it made me like that. Always makes me happy when they appreciate their people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to earn earn a living here. So taking care of those that are taking care of you and your community is something that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could talk about education endlessly, but now we have a venue for it. Go on to Eventbrite and grab some tickets for this event, or stay tuned for what is to follow. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us today. Next week, we're going to be joined by Kimberly Nook of Agent Market. Should be a fun conversation tying in the realtor and buyer side of the condo sphere. So thanks, Catherine. We'll see you at the events.